Hello, this is Anthony. Let's walk and talk. So, as several of you have noticed, I have not been quite as consistent in posting content over the past several weeks. And part of the reason for that, it has nothing to do with there being any a lack of content to produce, but really what's happening in my life. I'm having a lot of big changes going on in my life, changes that uh, are exciting and amazing, but at the same time, um, create difficulties, obstacles, and all sorts of things that are important to deal with when you're making kind of wholehearted changes. And so what I want to talk a little bit about today is I want to talk about the experience of going through the change, and in doing that, better ways in order to handle the change. You see, I think a lot of times what we end up doing is we end up looking at how we handle change post change. Meaning, let's say you're making a big move or you're changing jobs. We don't consider the change in the process. We look back at the change after it has already occurred. And then when we look back, we start to maybe be able to envision the little things that we saw along the way, the signs and stuff, to kind of help us and guide us on our path. And that's a wonderful thing. But a lot of times as you're going through the change, you are unable to see those things and to find encouragement in them, because a lot of times, I mean, again, whatever that change may be, whether it may be moving or starting a new job or starting a new relationship or ending a relationship or any multitude of things that create change in your life, even from changing your diet or changing your lifestyle or going to the gym. All of these things create opportunities. And what ends up happening, like I said, a lot of times is we just kind of try to keep our head down and keep going through it. But what we end up doing is after we get through it, we miss the little cues here and there that could have made that change easier. You see, I think that most people, when you get to a point where you are going through aspects in your life that require your attention, a lot of times, most people, at least I used to be this way, especially, you just keep your head down and keep chugging along until you get there. Some people, for instance, let's say you're walking up a big hill. Most people will look straight down at the ground, not look up at the horizon, and just focus on the ground in front of you. And then as you begin to continue that walk up that path, every once in a while you'll take a peek up and see, oh, I'm getting closer, I'm getting closer. But for me, things I'm learning and things I've noticed on the journey is, ways to make those moments more enjoyable. Let me tell you about, what I mean by that. Change doesn't have to be painful. You see, the reason that change becomes so painful is because we are creatures of habit. We like consistency and we like stability. But the issue is that growth and evolution doesn't always happen. In fact, most of the time, it does not happen in comfort. It happens in the catalysts and the obstacles that occur through change in your life. And when you begin to understand that and you begin to embrace change more, you start to see the journey in a different way. You start to see change in a different way. You start to see your growth and your evolution in a much different way. And you begin to really fear less the change, because you understand that just because you're going to change the consistency doesn't mean that changing the consistency is a bad thing. Again, have talked about this in the past, good and bad. A lot of times that's how you're judging things, and you're judging them based on your past experiences, how you were raised, the unconscious programming that makes up a big chunk of who you are. And I'm going to use the analogy of walking up the hill as a perfect example. As you're going through change, as I just talked about, it's like walking up a hill, and so most people, they just look down at the ground and they just focus on the steps in front of them. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, a lot of times what happens is you miss a lot of the things around you that make that worthwhile. You see, most of the time people don't understand that the journey is really what brings out the beauty and spice in life. It's not the destination. The destination is a great thing, but when you find yourself locked in ego, even when you reach that destination, you're not going to be satisfied. You're just going to create another destination for you to reach. But when you begin to understand that the journey itself is where the beauty exists, is where the growth happens, then you start to really focus on these things in a little bit of a different manner. Walking up a hill. So you're walking up the hill. It could be a road, it could be a path. You're starting at the bottom, you look up and you see, oh my gosh, I've got a long way to go. And you start moving up that hill. And as you move up that hill, you can feel the exhaustion in your body. You're getting tired. You're getting out of breath. You're dreading every step. But you're knowing that you need to get to the top. But most people, they just continue the journey in that manner, instead of taking the moments to look around you, taking the moments to focus on the breath, taking the moments to calm the body, calm the nerves. You see, as we've talked about in the past, a lot of times moving to a place of peace and calm requires really relaxing and resetting the nervous system. And one way to do that is through the breath. You know, a lot of times when I'm feeling anxiety or stressed, I'll box breathe, which is say, inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and let that exhale sit for a count of 4. And a lot of times that'll help regulate my heart rate, my breathing, and calm my nerves. So as you're walking up that hill, instead of just looking down and just feeling the trudge and the pain, think of it from a perspective of focusing on your breath, allowing your body to settle into the movement. And then when you do that, look up. Don't necessarily stare and focus on the horizon, but look at the environment around you. Look at the trees and the birds and listen to the sounds and feel the temperature, whether there's a little wind or a little brisk coolness on your skin. Focus on those things. Really kind of allow those things to come in. And while you're doing that, what happens is you begin to not focus on each step as much, but you start focusing on all of the beauty around you. You start focusing in on all of the things that are on the walk, just like all the things that are on the journey. You see, when you're going through it in terms of changes in life, and you're thinking of all the things that are going to be different, most people don't think of those things that are going to be different as good things. A lot of times they think of those things as negative things. They think, oh, well, I'm going to miss these people, or I'm going to miss these events, or I'm going to miss this view. But what they do is they're not allowing for all that positive energy to come in that's going to arrive when the change has occurred. Think about that and listen to that again. They're not thinking of all the positive things that are going to come and arrive when the change has occurred. This is no different than anything. Let's say going to the gym and you want to lose weight, and as you begin to continue your journey in terms of your growth, you start to see the changes in your body, and you start to feel better, and in feeling better, then your mental state gets more clear. Well, this is the same way in any change. Like when you have a breakup, the first thing that happens is you have that heartbreak. But then after that heartbreak, and after you start taking the shine off of the person, and you start kind of looking at the relationship as a whole, you begin to understand that, maybe the breakup happened because you were stagnant. And you don't think about all of the beauty that's going to follow once you get past that moment or that feeling of heartbreak or pain. You don't start thinking about You creating a life that you want, and then creating that life that you want potentially in the future, attracting a partner that shares that same vision as you. Same with a job. There's that initial fear of the unknown, what's out there, how much money will I make? But you don't think about how miserable you were getting up and going to that workplace every day. You see, and as you walk up that hill and as you begin to focus on your breath and the feeling and the beauty around you, well, soon you find yourself cresting that hill. And once you reach the top, the view there is usually incredible. Such is change in life. Such is that opportunity for growth and that invitation to allow new energy, allow new experiences, allow new adventures, and allow evolution. But what say you? How do you feel about that? Do you focus on the destination, or do you try to enjoy every step along the way? As always, if you enjoy this content, please like, share, and subscribe. I am truly grateful. And until I talk to you again, peace, love, light. I hope you have the most amazing day.